One of the major factors in competing in big-time college athletics these days, and football in particular, facilities. You need upgraded facilities, state-of-the-art facilities to compete with the blue bloods across the nation. Boston College trying to do yeoman's work in that regard and keeping up with the likes of Florida State and Clemson. And we bring in Dan Rubin from BC Interruption to help us sort out this latest announcement about a facilities upgrade. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. So $200 million, somebody came up with that amount of money to upgrade facilities there at BC, not just targeted at football, but can you kind of outline what the project looks like?
Yeah, apparently someone sold a lot of shrimp last year and was able to raise a good amount of money for a $200 million project for a facilities enhancement. The centerpiece of it's going to be a new practice facility field house for the football stadium, which will be adjacent to the current football stadium at Alumni Stadium at Boston College on campus. But they're planning a whole bunch of new stuff: a 240,000-foot rec center, new baseball stadium, new softball stadium, new intramural fields. They're going to be doing a pretty much a clear overhaul of some of the infrastructure on the athletics field of play to get up with some of the ACC brethren. It's a lot of heavy news. It's a lot of good news and a lot of excitement in with it. It can be a lot because people are wondering, well, where's the timeline and what do the permits look like and what are the approvals and how much is spent on what. And we got a rendering of the new practice facility, but at the same time there's a lot still that's undecided, but at least they've come out with an announcement and they've got plans and they've got pictures and they've said, this is what we're going to do, which is a lot more than what we've had over the last couple of years, which has been, well, we like it and we have to talk about it. So now it's coming. It's much needed. It is a game changer for Boston College in the Northeast. It's a game changer for some of the other sports other than football, but in terms of football centric, it is much needed, and a lot of people should be thankful that this is what Boston College is planning on doing.
Yeah, so basically recruits look at a number of factors depending on the recruit. Education plays into it, locale, but I think the overlapping themes for most recruits at this level: chance to win, chance to show off for the NFL scouts if we're talking football, and facilities. And it has just been an arms race across the country, as you well know, over the last 5 or 10 years. The upgrade in facilities has been ridiculous. We're talking about 15 and 20-year facilities that there is nothing wrong with, that look pristine, getting knocked down at places like Oregon, Ohio State, and Alabama to build bigger and better and more pristine. So obviously that's not at this level, but you obviously alluded to the impact that it could have in trying to maintain what Boston College would anticipate being the competition that they want to be able to attain to.
Yeah, and everybody up here has been doing something in terms of schools other than Boston College. Most notably is UMass. UMass invested a ton of money in a transition from the FCS up to the FBS. They joined the MAC, and now they're going independent this year, which independence actually might be better for them in terms of the long run, in terms of sizing up some competition and getting out of a league that they were really an ill fit for. But they spent a lot of money on getting their stadium and their infrastructure up to snuff for the FBS and really putting that in. Holy Cross, Bryant College, or Bryant University, those are both FCS schools. They've invested money in terms of putting facilities on campus, training facilities, really stuff that are guts and not necessarily nuts and bolts for the fans, but stuff that people don't see for the training for the players. Boston College hadn't done anything. They're really the last team to do it, even in the ACC. You look at some of the buildings that are out there, places like Clemson and Florida State. That's not something BC is going to do. They're not going to have, the robotic lockers like they have at Oregon or anything like the mini golf course or laser tag facility that Clemson built. But they're going to have a building that's a lot similar to what you might have seen at North Carolina in the plans, or at Georgia, which is essentially a hardtop warehouse type building, which is climate controlled, can simulate noise, simulate conditions that they really need to work on. Because at BC, you didn't have that. You were out in the open air during the spring and summer months. You were out on the practice fields. You couldn't simulate crowd noise at all if you were going on the road down to a place like Clemson, down to a place like Florida State. You just didn't have that capability. Now you're going to be able to. And in the winter months, when it comes to training, Boston College actually had an inflatable bubble that went over the Alumni Stadium 100-yard turf. It was very hard to break out position practices for BC. And at that point, you're also competing for time with baseball, with softball, with golf, different sports, women's lacrosse that needed to get out on a field and practice when you only had one facility that it was available, that was available with the inflatable bubble. If you ran into a bad winter like we had last winter up here in New England, the bubble deflated like the Metrodome. It deflated under the snow and the cold. And then you have to worry about getting it reinflated. So it was not conducive to the type of arms race that's going on in college football. And this is like I said, it's a game changer. I'm not sure that it changes necessarily some of the recruits that BC's going after. Like I always say, coaches always have a type of player in mind. And if Steve Adazio is still going after the same type of player, he's going to go after the same type of player. Like I'm saying in a couple posts, I can't wave the magic wand and see if he's all of a sudden going to start targeting 4-star guys or 5-star guys. We'll save that for the future and trying to figure that out. But you're not going to lose guys based off facilities. You're not going to lose guys to Rutgers. You're not going to lose guys to Syracuse who necessarily go on campus, see some type of on-campus facility that's a practice facility. They can talk about it. They can talk about training. They can talk about film. We didn't have that at BC. We only had the film rooms in the Yawkey Center, and they had the offices available, but they didn't have the appropriate practice facility. And now they do, and now they're planning for it. It's not going to have the impact, I think, right away that people might want. But as it's getting built and as construction starts, which should start this summer based off some of the permits that they need to get for the new Recplex and for some of the different things that they're going to be doing on campus, it opens up possibilities that in the next couple of years, Boston College might be able to start competing at levels on the recruiting trail, in the practice facilities, in player development, that maybe the glass ceiling was there simply because they didn't have this.
Adazio makes a pretty generic standard comment in regards to complimenting the commitment made from Boston College to give the students the best facilities possible, and noting what you just talked about in regards to an indoor facility that will provide the student athletes an opportunity to develop throughout the winter months. And I would think that there's a bit of a juggling act and a bit of a battle between determining, okay, football is extremely expensive. It's high profile. It's the highest of profile sports. So do we fund football exclusively or give them the first nod, or we can really upgrade in a number of other areas and have a greater impact on lesser profile sports? That's probably something that's on the table just pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Boston College actually has more varsity sports than I think any other ACC team. I think their number of varsity sports is pushing 30, if not more. And some of those sports you look at and you wonder what they can do with it. Now, in terms of some of the spring sports, in terms of baseball, Boston College doesn't have lacrosse, but the baseball stadium is actually a parking lot for tailgating during football season. So you need to build that stadium, and you need to get them in a position where they can compete in the ACC. And at the same time, you're looking at some of the other sports like softball, same situation. It's a parking lot during the football stadium. It's on the other side of the baseball field, temporary. It's natural grass instead of turf, which in New England is a big deal for teams that play in March or any time in the early spring when you're still competing with the weather. And for the football program, there's always the competition at a school like BC with academics to make sure that you're not jeopardizing some of the academic side of it. The players still need to be able to hack it academically in terms of Boston College, which is a very, very different academic school than some of the other schools in the ACC. And at the same time, as this spending and as this is coming up, you're still getting that humongous Recplex, which the athletic facility, the athletic field house is going on the site of the old recreation center for the students. They're going to tear that down, most likely starting this summer from what I've read, because it's already been approved. It was approved as part of a master plan back in 2009. So they can start tearing that down. and then they can build the new rec center for the students at another part of campus on the site of an old dorm. As soon as that building's down, they have the opportunity to start constructing this, but they can't mortgage and say, we're going to tear down this building or we're going to cut sports simply for them to build this beautiful football center, because at Boston College, you're dealing with the other aspects of student life that you're absolutely right, Mark. You just can't throw money into the highest profile sport, because BC is a very diverse culture. It's a very rich student tradition, and there's probably some people in administration and academia that $200 million going into athletics is a lot of money, and that's a very delicate line that they're going to have to walk.
Dan Rubin from BC Interruption helping us break down at $200 million, as he outlines right there, in facility upgrades there at Boston College. Dan, thanks so much for breaking things down for us.
Absolutely. Just happy that we finally got it coming, so BC fans can be really excited.